Notebooks out, please. No, your phone should be away. Your notes should be out. Your laptop should be away. You'll be getting out your laptop in just a moment. We have a new assignment coming up. In which, given that you've done the last one, I'm going to ask you to first get together in groups and look for improvements. Hello, why are you late?
I was
Oh, no, you've not been invited. That's a terrible reason. It's a terrible reason.
Seems like your privet kids are late today.
Pardon?
Seems like the privet kids are late today.
It does. They're like, Maybe I should ask them a riddle.
They're the closest to.
Oh, that's
A riddle. You're late. There were two girls born to the same mother on the same day, on the same month, on the same year. They are not twins. What are they? That's terrible. That's terrible. I mean, it's true. 4, we've got the rubric, and we've got deontology, utilitarian principles, self-reflection, peer evaluation process. This is like 5 groups of peer feedback form. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Any answers now? Oh, nice. Excellent. Okay. Nice time being on time. Let's go, 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 go. Oh, they have a brother, so they're triplets.
Good job, Longhorn.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all so very late. Hold it. He's sick. My entire house is. No, we got one. Yeah.
Archie wasn't in his room.
Oh, musical has to sleep in. Is he in the musical?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he is. Okay. Those who are coming in, quick. I'm going to get you into groups and have you evaluate a very similar assignment as we did last time. I've updated it a little bit based on what, because it was new to me as well, on what I wanted to improve on it. We can give you a chance to update it and see what you think would be useful. This is going to be a deontology / utilitarian project in which you'll present as well. So first part, I've got 5 different sheets. Peer feedback form for ethical scenario project. Questions? Excellent. So I very roughly put a rating scale in there. So this is the part where you are giving feedback to the person who has made the scenario. Needs improvement, satisfactory, good, excellent. How well does the scenario illustrate the ethical principle, utilitarian? Please provide examples, suggestions for improvement, your response, because I was making it up quickly. And I'm also thinking it might be better to use it because I had to give you your feedback on a separate sheet to actually start off on a form. Hello, why are we so very late? 2 girls were born on the same day, in the same month, in the same year to a mother, but they are not twins. What are they? Pardon? Yeah, actually, well done. They had a brother. 30 cows in the field. There's self-reflection, which I thought, when I gave you the first self-reflection, I looked at the results. Some were quite reasonable. I think some of the instructions would have been better if I was more explicit about the type of thing that I thought you should be reflecting on. And then when I looked at the assignment, I was like, you went through the process, you got all this feedback, and then what did you do with that feedback?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. So the last stage of the process would be to improve what you originally did based on your reflection on what the feedback is. Because maybe you're like, no, this feedback is nonsense, this is, or this part is really useful, that is not so useful, and that would be a really good part of the process, and that actually meets one of the proficiencies really, really well. The instructions for it here, you're going to generate a dual scenario, at least 2 principles for deontology, specify the exact type of utilitarianism, and you're going to refine it. Now, one part that I added, because you'll submit it, prepare for a class, writer, no, that one's now gone. Because the reflective analysis is going to come afterwards. Where is it? One thing I did add, because what I noticed is your words were often awesome. Like you said, this is what it could be, this is what else it could be. And then, of course, what grade did you give everybody? Standing high, except once in a while, I was like, oh, this part was, I don't know what they were doing. You felt like you really couldn't give them extending high. So this one, make it anonymous. You are evaluating someone's scenario in a small group, and that person is not there, and you do not know who they are. And then someone else is doing the same to yours over there. And then a little bit more honest feedback. And then in this process, you'll get a chance to take it in, and then you'll get to see it and go over it. However, one thing I have to do before I even start that and start yours is giving constructive feedback. It's helpful to be specific instead of saying like it wasn't clear, but it could include more details to really show why it was utilitarian. I didn't understand that, would be really helpful. Focus on improvement. So what could they do to improve rather than this part was really bad? This part would be improved by is a helpful way to phrase that. Balance positives and negatives. Find things that are working as well as things that are not working. It's very easy to see flaws, but it's also useful to see what's working well, so that can be expanded upon. Encouraging language. Hey, I think you might want to try this. A really interesting addition might be such phrases are useful, and remember this is a person, even though it's going to be anonymous. This is not the YouTube comment section. They are going to read it, and I still know who's reviewing what. But there are 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to have you look at those and then make suggestions for improvement on the project itself as soon as I take your attendance. We've got science of ethics. Now, while you're waiting, pull out your laptops and start reading through them. I'm going to separate it into groups and have you read each one separately, but start just reading it while you get attendance done and see what you think of different parts.
That's all I've got.
Timmy's here, Ben's here. Lily is on a sleep-in. Archie is at a
Like you
sleep-in.
have to go like, you have to write your 3 points, and then you do the first paragraph to the first thing, second paragraph.
That's just like a regular essay.
Yeah, but it's called a keyhole. It's special. That's it. Owen.
Zoe, Lisa, there. Felix, Zane is musical sleep-in. Casey, oh right, no wonder Privet's not here. They're in the musical. Casey. And Annabelle. There we go. Ava, Clara, yep. William K.
Yeah.
William Lee. Kate, Violet. There we go. Brandon. No, Brandon. Hugo, Parker, did I see Parker? No.
Right here.
Where are you? Oh, you're on that side, sorry. And had Kieran, Kate Watt is on musical sleeping, and Anderson is here. So those of you not here are.
Like on the slides.
Casey. Here.
Oh, I see. Okay. Is that all you're saying?
Yeah, for that one time.
Hello?
Right here on top.
We got the core, we're gonna benefits.
Before we begin, does everybody know how to do the difference between commenting, suggesting, and editing on a document?
Yeah.
Does anybody not know that or not seen it? If you take a document and you put suggesting, then anything you type at any particular spot gets highlighted in a particular way so that we can see it. So if you're going to add directly to the document, use the suggesting. And then if you just want to make a comment, use that and then we can see it. I'm going to ask now, get into those groups. Find your people, find a spot, and then I'll assign you which page. Find. Bring your laptop. You can move desks around so you can make your little group of 4.
I'm joking, bro. I love you. Where's Anderson, bro?
And then, where's your group? Oh, you're in that group. Okay. The way you're turning around, I thought you were part of that group. And you're just, I was gonna you need to move to another seat, but you good. Good.
I'm gonna use this one.
Everybody got their spot? Oop. We need. Yeah, back to that one. Okay. What do these do? This is a fair amount of. You're going to make a scenario. You're going to get together. You're going to give each other feedback. It's a fair amount because I've got to take it all in and put it. Much easier solution would to give you all like a test at the end of this. So this is kind of taking the place of that. At the end of this, if you'd rather have a test, I'll do a poll and then you can see which one you want to do. But I thought this would be interesting. So group 1, have one of you make a copy of this particular page, the peer feedback form. So this is the form that you'd be doing when you were looking at someone else's scenario. And this is what I thought people would be considering for each section. So make a copy, discuss what should be added or what is unnecessary, or maybe it should be changed entirely. I don't know. I will let you do that. Group 2, peer evaluation process. Are those instructions good? Should things be added, taken away? You are on this form. So this would be after it's been, you've made your scenario, you've prepped it, you submitted it, and how this process is going to do. Those instructions make sense. Self-reflection after you get the peer feedback. So you're going to improve it after this. Group 3, the overall project instructions. So here's where you'll start. Naturally, I'm going to title that with a 4. I should have put this in like time order. That would make it less confusing. And then the overall rubric. At one point, this one and this one might be the same thing, or is this one of the ones that I'm going to use? Because I was making up a few things last night as I was considering what we might do. Group 5. Now, if you want to take a look at your section, take a look at someone else's section and use that to how it can make it better or be more clear, you're welcome to do so. But if you could make a copy in your group of that particular one and then put all of your suggestions into that one.
Oh, so
Yep.
Group, you edit those documents?
So, yeah, you can't edit those ones. You have to make a copy of it. Once you make a copy, you can edit anything you want, of course, in the document. So the originals will stay there. I don't think you have editing ability on those. Make a copy, and then use that. I'm going to have you submit the copy.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, so that's not.
So like, what do we make a copy?
Pardon?
What do we make a copy?
One of you makes a copy of the one that corresponds to your group. So there's 5 groups.
Uh-huh.
Do you know your group number? So group 1, here, you're doing peer feedback, 1. Group 2, Anna Sinclair, you're doing peer evaluation. Group 3, Lisa Ann Williams, self-reflection. Group 4, the overall instructions. And then group 5, rubric, overall.
And then whose are we evaluating?
What do you mean, whose are you evaluating?
What do we like?
You're evaluating the project itself. Having gone through this once,
the project.
I may not have been clear on this. The last project is the first project I've ever done using ChatGPT. And because I'm using ChatGPT, the actual writing part, like just generating the scenario, obviously that's not the part I'm marking. But if we incorporate peer review into that process and you're engaging with each other, that adds a component that brings it back up in complexities because you can use ChatGPT and then learn how to refine it. So you're improving the project itself. Yes, it sounds like I'm making you do my homework. Excellent. Does that make sense, Ben?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else need to know the group number? Okay. Go.
So you're gonna make the copy.
Sure. So make sure we're suggesting for
So we're suggesting like what?
suggesting
Yeah. But what are we supposed to do?
just like improvements, I think. Oh, this is not much.
For like the peer evaluation, like, because we're suggesting, what exactly do you want? So we just suggest.
Have a read over it. What would you do to, and then with an idea of improving the entire project, you can give suggestions of, I mean, anything from, this is not needed at all, here's our brand new idea, to, I think this is good, but I would like to change this and this and this. You actually did this scenario where you're evaluating each other. Does that fit
Yes.
what it is that we're going to do with that, having gone through it? Does that make more sense?
Yeah.
Wait, what? still highlight that? You highlighted good.
Yeah. So that's
No, we're not actually like going through it, we're just like changing it. It's like we're not reflecting on your project.
You're not doing the project right now.
So we're just supposed to like modify the questions and improve.
Modify the questions or trash the whole thing and say, here's our better idea. That entire comment. Or you could just say, no, this is perfect, Mr. Neufeld. Every word you write is pure gold.
And what if we were to say, well, what would we get?
Oh, yeah, I'm not marking you at this point.
Oh,
No, this is just labor.
oh,
Yeah. You now have more experience with ChatGPT projects than. How many of you have done a ChatGPT project in another class? Right. So you now have more experience than any other teacher in the school with this. I incorporated peer feedback because ProD suggested that was a great way to leverage it and teach you prompt engineering.
Got butter, got bread, got parsley. Any like fancy band
that's a good point. Put a due date in.
Oh. So it could be,
Well, put in like which section are you doing?
oh, we're on the reflection.
Because a note in there,
I mean,
you did the last one. How long would it take? What's a reasonable amount of time for the different parts of the project?
after school.
As well.
Circle. This document says peer review will randomize. Like, what is randomizing?
I will take it so that you don't know which group. So I'm not going to put it in alphabetical order or something. So you're going to be in a random group, and you'll be given a random selection of scenarios.
Okay.
Actually, now that I say it, that's probably not important for the instructions, but it won't be truly randomized because I'll make sure yours aren't in there. Yeah. Okay, 8:45, I'm going to have you stop on your particular section. And the person who has the document, I would like you to now rotate it, send it to the next person. You're going to evaluate the next one along. So if you're in group 1, I would like to you to consider what group 2 was considering. So group 2, you need to send it to group 1. Group 2, group 3, you need to send it to group 2. Group 3, you're considering 4, you need to send it to group 3. 4, you're considering group 5, you need to send your document to group 4. Group 5, you are considering group 1. Group 1, you need to send it to group 5. So you're going to look, I'll get at least 2 people looking at each section.
Casey. I will send it to you.
Send it to me?
Yeah, because you're group.
Oh.
Well,
So
we'll
we're
send you.
send it to-
I'll send you your.
Yeah.
No, we.
Yeah.
That was complicated. Does anybody need more instructions, or is that good? And then after a few months of that, we'll go back to consent.
place 12 principals.
Okay, anybody still writing anything? Take your pages, submit them to this like it's an assignment from each group, and then put your, you can get back to your seats and submit them in here. And we'll go back to informed consent.
Does just one person submit it?
Just submit it up where it says for that one, the same one you got it from. Pardon?
Everyone in the group submits it?
No, the person, whoever has the sheet.
Right, so I can't do it 'cause I don't.
Oh yeah, so you submit it.
I got it.
Or maybe they put our names in the comments or something.
I put it in the comments.
Yeah.
Just submit the sheet. You have to submit the sheet to classroom. Okay.
Excellent. Good one. Perfect. 4. We need one more. 5. Excellent. Return to your seats. And just to double check, so I don't end up making something that nobody wants to do, I'll take the feedback, I'll have something ready to go for next week. Take out your favorite device and vote. HelloSmart.com, type in 897683. And do you want to do a test or a project for this section? Good vote. It's a poll. Yes. Just put down any name. It can be anonymous. Once you have it, once you voted, just put your laptop away and we'll get out the notes. You log in as guest.
I just searched some
Go. What does it say? What did you, how did you get that?
You have to start the list. Yes.
Oh, I trust.
Oh, do I have to start it?
Yeah.
Oh, right, here it is. How'd that person, what is that?
I don't know. I just misspelled
Started.
word.
Okay, there you go, sorry.
I put this.
Is that you? The little symbol? Go.
At least submit other.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Really couldn't wait for it to
How many do I have? Felix. Excellent. Has everybody done it? 5. Oh, I got the finger. No. 4. Oh, there it goes. And Greg. Remember, just like voting in real life, vote early, vote often. Felix?
Yeah.
Is yours in?
Yeah.
Is it submit?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else not done? 2 people want to test. 17 people would like the project, so we'll do the project. For the 2 people that have a test, don't worry, you are going to get a test in the future. But it'll be after the consent one. Okay. Oops. I want this one.
Oh, the record is actually so good.
I didn't choose.
Okay. We finished off last day. We started informed consent. It must be informed, voluntary, and competent. And now we're going to go through the types of consent. Put away your laptops and phones. Get out your notes. We've got some content to get through. Phones away, laptops away. Laptop away. Now that you're done. Zoe. Sorry. First type of consent, the most obvious kind, explicit consent. You're in a doctor's office. They ask if they can give you a shot. You say yes, please give me the damn needle. That's a good type of consent. You know exactly that they've said yes. There's no doubts about it. Second type of consent is the implied type of consent, assumed from actions. Hey, can I give you the needle? And the patient holds out their arm. They haven't said anything, but they've indicated that they're okay with it. It's not as good as implicit. It may not be informed. They may be holding out their arm for other reasons. There's a little bit of gray area there, but especially when you're dealing with humans and body language, implied consent, of course, happens all the time. It's interesting too how this evolved in from the same area that your health packs go. The first campaign was no means no. Why was that it turned out that was not a very good campaign. No means no was turns out not a very effective approach to consent. Does anybody know why that wasn't a very effective approach to consent? Do they do this in your health class? A little bit? Do they do the no means no? I don't think that's done anymore in most of them. Why would it be bad? Yeah.
I think because, like, there's other ways of saying no without, like, actually saying no.
Yeah.
Like, someone, like, yeah, like, because you're a community or they'll actually say no.
Yeah. You hit it right nail on the head. So if they don't explicitly say no, is everything else a yes? If they say nothing, is that a no? It left too much out. So then they switched it to yes means yes, which seems like a huge improvement. But as we discussed last day, we ended up with a problem there. Ooh, there's a good video that demonstrates that. It's a tiny little clip. Did I already get it? 1 second. The problem with the, I think this is the T video. Let me just double check it's not the other one. I'm not going to show the T video.
If
again.
you're still struggling with
yeah,
consent, just imagine
Stop it.
instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea.
No more tea today. Perfect.
I got some turpentines.
Okay, I'll pause this. with, that chuckle nut, who is clearly setting up a scenario where he knows there'll be a pressure to say yes, even though he claims that there's no particular danger. There could be all sorts of pressure. If you were acting ethically, and forget legally, just ethically, then you want to make sure the yes is fully informed, it's free of any particular pressure. A no could just mean I'm going to keep asking and asking and asking and asking until I finally wear down my person or partner and get a yes. So both of these turned out not to be good campaigns because consent is rarely sufficient to put down to a slogan. We need to consider a lot more nuances. But in terms of types of consent, if you're a doctor and you're in a medical context or you're in the health context, of course we want to, it's always useful to verbally hear something that indicates consent. Implied consent can always come from actions. You don't know if it's informed. Presumed consent, I wanted to hide that part. Assumed on the basis of something called the objective reasonable person, which I now have to define. Two girls are born on the...
Triplets.
Yeah. Have I already done the 30 cows in a field?
Well, it could also be that they have a different mother.
No, I said it was the same mother.
Oh.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Good one, though. Have I done 30 cows in a field?
No.
Maybe that one's not. 30 cows in a field, 28 chickens. How many didn't?
10.
Nice.
Say what?
30 cows in a field, 28 chickens. How many didn't?
How many didn't?
10.
Oh,
30 cows in a
chickens.
field, 28 chickens. How many did?
28 chickens.
Oh yeah. Well, I thought you were.
28 chickens. How many did 8?
Oh.
30 cows in a field, 28 chickens. Oh, by the way, cows and horses aren't always herbivores. I've observed both eating tiny little chicks. If they run by them on a farm, they'll just go extra protein. There was a horse, we had to get her out of the field because she was eating all the baby chickens that went by. She liked them like little nuggets. Anyway. The objective reasonable person is a fictional person. It is brought up in both law and ethics. It's not a real person. It's an objective reasonable person. So from the terms that are describing it, what kind of person in layman's terms? Layperson's terms? What do we expect this person to be? Why would we be talking about an objective reasonable person? What is an objective reasonable person? One of what? Yeah, they're a person. Yeah, so where you have a fictional person, what kind of decisions do they make?
Not based on opinion.
They're not based on opinion. So,
So they look at AI.
no, not a real person, not even a program person. Free from bias. So we're not going to consider that they have bought into some vast conspiracy of some sort, or they're really, die-hard fans of something. They're just objective. And they can do like basic math and understand language and use logic. They are reasonable. Another way of saying reasonable is that they're rational. Yep.
Can you reword the definition? I don't understand what I should write down
Here,
for presumed. Just like the whole.
assumed on the basis of an objective reasonable person standards in absence of reasons to the contrary. Oh, I haven't finished it yet. But
It doesn't really make sense.
what does this mean?
Yeah.
Let me add in words. I think the missing word might be consent. assumed consent on the basis of an objective reasoning standards. For example, under what circumstances, Eva, put the phone away. Under what circumstances would you not ask someone? You wouldn't get it in writing. You wouldn't even get an implication of an action. You wouldn't even hear it verbally, but you would assume consent. Yes.
If they're doing something like that you ask, like if
Oh, that would be implied. You asked them and they started doing it. There is the implication that they have consented to do it.
oh,
Yep.
Could you assume that like by all people sitting in this room, you could assume that like they consent to like being here and learning?
That's implied. You came to the room. You know what's happening. That's often the case in hockey. So, for example, you walk on the ice in professional hockey. There's a certain level of physical damage that is assumed you're consenting to the point it was once very difficult to charge people for physical assault if they were playing a professional game. The first time that happened, it made the news. Now it's happened a few times where someone on the ice is like taking their skate and really drove it into someone, and they were charged with assault. But you are consenting to a lot of damage when you get up there.
Is that the one where like the guy just recently died?
I don't know. I haven't heard of one lately, but there might have been one. I don't really follow hockey. I find the sport really difficult when they hit the little ball down the fairway. There with that little clap. So odd. Yes.
Is it like if they've consented to something similar before, then
Oh yeah, that's not presumed though. You actually have a prior agreement there of some kind.
no, but not with you, like just with someone.
Oh, with someone else.
Yeah.
Ooh, I think you're getting. I think that would be a good. I hadn't even thought of that example. I think that one fits. Good. Yeah.
Like, judging by the way, like, they, like, I don't know, like, do stuff that they would, like, if they,
And hat, can you put that away in your bag?
like, they did, like, a job, like, say they did gardening before, like, it would be, you would presume that they would do gardening again, maybe?
I see where you're going. I'm just having difficulty coming up with a scenario that fits with what you said. I think I know what you mean, but I need like, what would you be asking them? What would you be, where would that come in though? What would you be doing?
Like you ask them to like, I don't know, like cut your lawn because
Oh, yeah. But as soon as you said you asked, that's now explicit consent. You may have made an assumption there, and they're maybe irritated at you because, like, what do you think I can do? But you have asked them. So this is a case in which you haven't. For this one, you assume because they agreed with someone else previously with the same thing. So maybe I should add, because for the same reason, this doesn't say what it is, i.e., your friend took a pop from Bob's fridge. So you do too. You ever had the thing where you take in your pop and you bought it up at Thrifty's and you put 12 cans in your fridge and you let your friend have one, and you come back later, there's 2 left? Because everybody assumed that they could borrow the pop from your fridge? That doesn't happen here anymore? Excellent.
Could another example just be like, if it's someone you know and you've spent time with them and you've like learned about their personality, just making an assumption on like how you thought they carry themselves?
You're actually going by, that's a bit more complicated than objective reasonable person. You know them. And so you're actually taking their prior wishes into account. So it's in the same vein, but you actually have more information than the average person has.
like if you just assume that like they like to play fight, and you just like walk up to them and sock them in the face because you
Yeah.
assume that like that's just like how they play, would that be?
Yeah, well, that's happened in the house. One particularly notable student who grew up with three older brothers arrives in grade 9s and immediately starts like wrestling with everybody because he has 3 older brothers who like tortured him mercilessly when he was young. So he just assumes that's what every family is like, and now he's got a ton of brothers. And then eventually became head of school. Yes?
Organ donations work?
Pardon?
Organ donations?
Organ donations? Explain why it could work.
Because they're dead, you can't really ask them.
Oh, so no, you just got rid of consent. You just got, oh, they're dead, they don't care anymore. I'm going to take it all. You just got rid of the problem, yes.
Like if you just judging by a person's character, like you buy them something that you presume that they like or something.
No, sure. But again, now you're judging them based on their character a little bit. If you got rid of the word character, in the same way if you got rid of the history like I knew them, and you just made it on the basis of would the average person like this? So, a scenario, when would you want to do something to someone without their consent? Imagine for a moment, while I'm talking about this, I am eating a snack, and I start to choke. What would happen next? Yes, Timmy? Yeah, how?
A Heimlich?
Yeah, how many of you have been trained in the Heimlich maneuver? Oh, fantastic, I am saved. At least one of you hopefully can help save me. I am a fair bit taller, so this might take more than one of you. Or maybe we'll use a chair and I'll throw myself at it. One of the dangers, by the way, if you're choking, please stay where people can see you. People get embarrassed when they choke, so it's very common for them to run to the bathroom and hide, and then they finish choking and dying there. If you are inside the house alone and you start choking, go outside. Hopefully someone will see you while you try to Heimlich yourself. Has anybody here been trained on how to Heimlich yourself? How do you Heimlich yourself?
You go behind a chair and kind of push the back of the chair under your diaphragm.
Yeah. Take hopefully a tall chair.
Well, no, don't you like jump on the corner of it?
Yeah, you jump. You literally jump and hit right here on the. Now, like I'm tall, so I would have to leap into the air and hit it, and that would be hilarious. I'm not going to do that. Hopefully you're a little shorter. Those might work. I'd have to. Maybe that desk might work for me. It is the only life-saving action where I know like multiple people who have used it at school. Not that particular one, but some type of Heimlich and save someone's life. It's probably the most valuable piece of information you can know. Okay, so performing the Heimlich on someone, you don't have their consent, they're choking. Now, you are supposed to ask them for consent. If you've been trained into doing the Heimlich or first aid, what are you supposed to do?
I had another example.
Oh, what's the other example?
So like, you were like hired recently at your office and you wanted to like make your boss happy with you, so you just like bought them like a gift that like the average person would like because you think that they would like it. That's okay.
Sure, I think that can work. Now, who's been trained in the Heimlich? Who again? Can you tell me what you do if someone is choking? Are you allowed to just grab them and start going?
Yeah.
No, you have
No?
to say like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm trained, can I help you? And then they can like give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
So you're still supposed to, and then you're going for like implied or explicit, yes?
But like when you're choking and you're maybe unconscious anymore or something, and
Right.
I can't just let people die. Right?
So yes. Have you been trained in the Heimlich? So what are you supposed to if they're just like and they're like, hello, you seem to be choking. Would you like my assistance? I have been trained in all of the Heimlich maneuvers. And the person just goes All right, and but they give you no indication. Are you supposed to then start administering the Heimlich?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
No.
When
The universal sign of help me, I'm choking is actually this. And if they do that, that is a symbol that is now from explicit to implied. Because if you know about it, it's explicit. But if they go nothing, or they seem to go like this, or they're stressed in any way and they don't want you to approach it, because people who are choking get very stressed, they may not want you to approach them because they think they can handle it themselves. You have to wait until they fall unconscious.
but when they're unconscious,
But when they're unconscious, you can apply the objective reasonable person standard, which is, would the average person want their life saved? If they are objective and reasonable, rational and reasonable. Yeah, so now you're allowed to save them because they're unconscious. And they can't give any consent. So the objective reasonable person standard is used when you can't get another type of consent. Yes?
What if, it would be really dumb, but what if it's a suicide act?
Yes.
Then what do? If they fall unconscious, you're objective reasonable person, like, you could save them, but if it's a suicide act,
If
should you save them?
the reason that takes a little bit more to unpack, if they didn't want you to help them for any, and you knew about it ahead of time, and I'm not saying because maybe they just don't like to be touched, and they think that if you touch them that something bad will happen. I don't know. Let's take the suicide part out there because that adds a level of complexity. Let's just say you knew ahead of time that even if they were choking and they went unconscious, you weren't supposed to help them, then you could be charged with assault afterwards. Possible. Because you knew.
For saving their lives, I could be charged with
Maybe. If you knew. If you don't know, like it's just a random person and they're choking and then they fall unconscious, and beforehand they were acting odd, but lots of people who are choking act odd, and you save their life, your defense is going to be the objective reasonable person standard. And in Canada, there's what are called Good Samaritan laws. If you didn't know differently and you try to save someone's life, even if you make a mistake, you're in most cases protected. Now, a lot depends. There have been extreme cases like I literally thought that this action, which very clearly was going to harm someone, was going to save their life. Like, I've never done a tracheotomy before, but I saw it on a medical show once and they were choking, so I stabbed my knife into their throat trying to open a hole. That's not Good Samaritan laws, not going to save you. But you've actually been trained in the procedure, you've gone through first aid, someone was hurt and they needed help and you helped them and you made a mistake because your training was a long time ago, you're protected under Canada's Good Samaritan laws. You are not protected in every country, but a lot of countries do have that protection. I have to put that on because apparently there's a few countries that don't. Yes?
That does work, but if you're in like a job that like you need first aid for and like you might have to like do it, the Good Samaritan Act doesn't you're not protected under it.
If you're at a job, you're supposed to go through the job regulations. So if I get injured here, I have to go, the job is supposed to provide medical care through an appointed personnel. They can get in trouble for not appointing the personnel. I would not be in trouble for accepting aid, but I would be in trouble for giving aid when I wasn't allowed, because the job is liable for anything I as their employee do. So if I give you aid, now that being said, all of the house parents, we've had first aid training. So like if you start choking, boom, I always want, it just feel like, and then I hear the stories of it flying across the room. One of you could choke right now. Yeah. Now, what is the problem with this type of consent?
Very subjective.
It's an objective. It says objective right there.
It's subjective.
It is subjective in a way. You're relying on the person to know what objective is. Let's say we do know it, but let's just say, like, objective, we presume a lot of things, but these are standardized, like we assume everybody wants to live, and they would like their life saving, like normal things. We're not doing anything crazy. There's still a problem with it. Yep.
Like, once they're conscious, they could be mad at you?
Why would they be mad at you? That would be the reason.
Because they don't want you touching them?
Because they didn't want you touching them. It doesn't take prior wishes into account. And for certain areas, it may or may not, you might have had a duty to find out ahead of time, or like saving with the Heimlich maneuver, life or death, but assuming this all the time for everything wouldn't take anybody's individuality into account.
what about children, like 2-year-old or like
What about them?
Like, would you be allowed to just do the Heimlich maneuver without them consenting?
Oh yeah, because they're incompetent. However, how many of you have gotten, no, I'm not gonna ask you because that would be wrong. I was about to ask you how many of you have gotten the COVID shot, but if you haven't, or you have, and however you feel about it, I want to do that. But if anybody would like to volunteer what happens when you get the COVID shot, you are a minor, you're sitting down in the province of British Columbia across from a nurse. Before the nurse says anything, what does he or she ask you before they give you the shot? Yep. If you want it. They ask you for consent first, and if you say no, it doesn't matter what your parents say. You're not getting the COVID shot if you convince the nurse that you honestly don't want it. And that's true for any vaccinations at your age. Now, if I drag in my screaming and crying 3-year-old child, the nurse or doctor is probably going to be, yeah, they can't not consent to this because you are acting, they are so incompetent. But if they're your age, you can think, you have reasonable ability to predict the future, you can take in information. We're not going to puncture your body and introduce a foreign substance that you do not want. I went in and did this. I didn't know they were going to ask this to Spawn, and they did, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I told another member of staff, I said, by the way, and they were like, thank you. Because their child, they know, would have said no as a joke, and then just kept going with it. So they had to explain this was a real question they were going to be asked. There, and there.
Do they have to ask consent?
Yeah.
Because in Saudi, they did ask consent, and if
Oh.
you said no, you'd be fired.
Province of British Columbia, Canada. And then the reason I have to be that specific is Canada has really good consent laws, particularly with youth. You're actually classified as an infant in BC until you're 19 years old. And in BC, we have the strongest medical consent laws, I think, in the entire country. You are what's considered, in most cases, a mature minor. You can get an abortion right now if you happen, I realize, to be pregnant. If you're not pregnant, you can't get one. And they're not allowed to tell your parents without your consent. Canada's, BC's laws are fairly strict on that. They assume you to be a mature minor at a certain age. You can take control of your own medical decisions. Yeah. Now, Saudi, pretty sure you can't get an abortion there. That would be a little bit more difficult. Now there's like 3 hands. There and then there. There.
When I took in the first one, they only asked me, but in the second one and the third one, they also made me sign a paper. Like,
Oh.
Not my parents.
Yeah.
Me,
But you, yeah.
They told me I need your sign.
And that's not because, again, you're too young to sign a contract. It's not legally binding. But it does show if in case it ever come up. Well, we asked them, they signed the paper, they said yes. The fact they're saying no now. When I did the consent here, we saw the one where he said regretting consent doesn't remove the consent. You can regret consent, but that doesn't mean it wasn't consent. And they're trying to avoid you later on saying that it wasn't real consent. Well, we have their signature. What else were we supposed to do? Yeah.
So like back like 7 years ago when I was in like grade 4
Yeah.
at my old school, we were doing like hepatitis shots, and everyone had to sign forms. But like when we were doing it, there's this one kid who may or may not have been named Daniel, who I hated.
Okay,
but
we
anyway-
don't need to give names.
But anyways,
Let's call him Fred.
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 Yeah, okay.
Okay, Fred.
And Fred was absolutely bawling.
Yeah.
He was not having a good time. He signed the form. So does but he still had to do the shot. But does the explicit consent on the form override the implied non-consent of bawling?
What do you think?
I have no idea.
What is
I mean, he got the shot.
got the shot? What? How old is grade 4?
Like
What? Kindergarten's grade like 5 years old. One would be 6. So 6 plus 9, 10.
Yeah.
So 9, 10 years old. Is that a mature minor? Because and you're saying no, you're closer in age than of course I am. So it might be just that they got a signature, and they know the parents want it. So like, I don't care. You're getting your shot because your parents want it, and they'll get it. You know, they're the ones giving consent on your behalf. But if you had like someone your age where they're like, yeah, I'll sign the form, and then they're like visibly upset, maybe even going, no, 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 no. Should you give the shot? They sign the form. Is consent about forms? Not really about forms.
Not old enough.
Have I told you the story about the biology 12 student who needed their blood type done? We did a blood typing that I had to hold them down.
Yeah, you told
Yeah,
science.
Yeah, and they asked me to hold them down, and so they would have all the visible signs of distress, but they hated needles. And I must admit that I have a spawn who, for a metabolic disorder, has to go to BC Children's. It used to be twice a year. Now it's just once a year. And when he was little, up to quite late, I held him down every single time. At one time, we're sitting in the room waiting. He's there. He's being very brave. He's like 8 years old. He's like, okay, I know I have to do this. And he's like talking to himself. And a little boy comes in. He's about a year or two older, by the look of it. And he's just crying. He's like, I don't want to give blood again. He's obviously sick. Like, this is like BC Children's Hospital. Probably has cancer or something fairly serious. But he does not want any more shots. And you hear him go in, and then you hear him like, no, no, no. And his parents are with him. He's like, oh God, won't somebody help me? And all of us in the waiting room with all of our children just like, yeah. So it didn't matter that he said, no, too young to be competent. He's getting like cancer treatment. Like they're not going to let him hurt himself. So your answer, bias, big, huge part of it. So I'm going to go down where, yeah. We talked earlier on about conceptual frameworks. What is this objective, reasonable person? Do we know? Works with we have the conceptual framework. We will use it with life and death, but for little things, you probably should ask them before you should borrow a pop from the fridge. 4, I think this is the last one, is entailed consent. Follows from another explicit consent. If you consent to surgery, it will be assumed that you're also consenting to anesthetic because you cannot consent to one without the other. There's more work in recent times where you might actually be asked to explicitly consent to both. But oftentimes, if you consented to one thing, that entails a whole bunch of operations that, if you're informed, you are also consenting to, even if it wasn't explicit. The Criminal Code and Principle of Autonomy and Respect for Persons, so Canada's laws, and deontology, the very, very first principle, you always have to respect other people's autonomy. They are required to respect yours. It is also interesting how this has changed the flavor of even how we punish people. When I think about the school, the stories from the old administration from when I first got here, we're a British-style boarding school. And when I got here, most of our staff was old and British, which made a lot of sense. But if you got in trouble, you were in trouble, and you had to do this thing. And you didn't have a lot of choice about it, and you were bad. At the end of every conversation, Mr. Sullivan, and before him, Mr. Felix, will often say, was this process fair? Do you feel like you weren't heard? You're still in trouble. He's giving you a whole list of why. Because you don't have to be here. You are willing to put up with this punishment because you want to stay here, or your parents want you to stay here, or however that works out. And if you don't feel the process is fair, even if you're the one who transgressed, that's an actual problem. We have to make sure you're consenting to anything that happens to you here, even when you're in trouble. Felix?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I'm thinking very hard.
What's in your lap?
My hands.
But you were typing.
Alright.
Yeah, put that away in your bag. Yeah. Very few people stare in their lap with that much fascination. Okay, good? Or anybody still ready? Where's your notes? This is the area you are actually going to get a test on. Later, we'll do this, we'll do doctor-patient relationship, and then I'm going to give you a scenario for that one. Good? Anybody still ready? Other than perhaps Felix? A variety of campaigns with consent. I just got some posters because whenever we talk about consent, you search for it online. And nuances come up because consent is always talked about in terms of sexual health and sexual relationships. One of the important points that's not mentioned explicitly in ethics, I think it's just assumed, is that it also has to be continual. So one of the problems with the Yes Means Yes campaign was that if the partners started out saying yes, but later they said no, well, you're not allowed to change your mind, are you? And of course you're allowed to change your mind at any particular time. In any particular process, you're allowed to change your mind. You can't have a contract that binds you to something forever, even in the legal field. There might be penalties. I've signed a contract for this year to teach you, and I'm also a house parent. Could you imagine if I gave like 2 weeks notice and just walked away? They would have to find another house parent like that, who's willing to run the house and run all the boys. They'd probably actually be able to find someone. I'm not that irreplaceable. However, it would be a huge schmozzle. So there's things in my contract that if I walk away, I take certain penalties, but they can't stop me. Nobody can stop me. Not assumed, not based on reputation, and not owned. So they are talking about there the difference between implied and presumed. You can't presume it just because of how someone is dressed, based on their reputation, or not owed. Just because you're in a relationship with someone doesn't mean that that you're not allowed to ask. You don't have to get consent. What was the date in Canada? The last that I'm going to give you, the reason not owed is there. You might not be aware of this. For a very long time in both Canada and the US and the UK, it was not possible to press sexual assault charges against your spouse. So if there was a sexual assault on you by your spouse, the courts wouldn't even consider it. That changed relatively recently in our history. Thank you very much. Do we have class Monday or Tuesday with the Careers Day tomorrow? They're not skipping it to Monday because of Careers Day? Okay. Excellent. Yeah?
Can you bring my assessment sheet into science class next class? Because I missed it.
Are you willing to wait a second?
Yeah.
Do you have time right now? Because this is like tutorial.